end the conference with people who are actually real peace activists, who are also informed about what is called the truth movement, the issues of the truth movement. So we have a great panel here. First is going to be David Schlesinger. He's a peace activist, a scholar of Gandhi and Satyagraha tactics, lives in Maryland. Let's get Dave Schlesinger up here. Please give him a warm welcome.
Thanks so much, Sander. I'm not a scholar of anything, but I am a student of Gandhi. Most people consider nonviolence to be the same as being nice, but too weak to accomplish anything. That's because you have to go back over 40 years of the civil rights era for most people to remember it otherwise. Okay? Most people see nonviolence as a way to keep from getting hurt or abused while protesting. Gandhi expected those who used his form of nonviolence, which he called Satyagraha, to be so committed to the truth, and that is how he put it, committed to the truth, that they were willing to die for it. Satyagraha is defined as putting one's whole weight on the truth. It should find support in this room. How many people in this room are so committed to seeking out the truth that they are willing to risk their lives for it? Good. Let me step back and provide perspective. How many people feel being at this gathering could eventually cost them their life? Let's step back further. How many people in this room feel being a 9/11 truth activist could cost them eventually their life? I certainly believe that being active in the 9/11 truth movement might one day mean the government could kill all of us if martial law were declared. In fact, that could be one of the main reasons that they would declare martial law, to wipe out 9/11 truth. In 1965, Sukarno of Indonesia killed at least 500,000 opponents. That could be the model. How many people believe I just made a case for escalation of our tactics? Here's the logic. If they're preparing to kill us anyway, why not go on the offensive? I argue here that nonviolence, high-quality nonviolence, the most extreme nonviolence, is the most powerful nonviolence. With nonviolence, you can be as extreme as you want, because you are the one who makes the sacrifice, not your adversary. Nearly all individuals in this country who get arrested on purpose to make a political point try to minimize their punishments. That's true even of the very admirable people who serve multi-year sentences for felonies. These folks are, without exception, wonderful people. They're polite to everyone, which I wish I could say was true of our movement. Let me step back a bit and critique our beloved 9/11 truth movement. Too often, truthers use name-calling and personal attacks, which are a sign that one lacks confidence in one's own position. The fact that we are the brunt of such attacks is no excuse for in-kind response, and it's actually good. It just means we're making progress. The primary reason for me, the primary lesson for me from the anti-nuclear power activism of my youth is that we can't be surprised at repression. It means we're being taken seriously. Secondly, the term disinformation and accusations of bad faith leveled at anyone who disagrees suggests the accusing person thinks that they can read minds, generally considered a sign of insanity. This is the major reason so much of the left acts like we have cooties. Sadly, it's also ammunition for our adversaries. Because these two movement weaknesses are so pervasive, other truth activists oppose allowing any disagreement. This is a very weak position because making it hard to be united on larger issues like MIHOP, which is pretty basic. The left is correct that conspiratorial thinking discourages activism, Anyone who holds that they are the only person of integrity has a hard time in life, much less in politics. You folks in this room are an exception. The lesson here is we must commit ourselves to working things out with each other. Sadly, we're quite far from being prepared to use satyagraha, with so many of us unable to even be polite. Satyagraha is about being so much more than polite. Individuals who are polite are usually just using social skills in order to achieve victory. The struggle for victory, by definition, is a threat to the truth. A commitment to truth must always mean we have no enemies. They are instead misguided adversaries. George W. Bush and Dick Cheney are our brothers. They are our brothers. They are extremely misguided brothers, but still our brothers. When they were in office, I prayed every day for God to help them turn away from evil, just as every day I ask God to help me turn away from evil. I do the same now for Obama and Biden. Am I saying persuasion is sufficient to achieve change? No, I am not. Do I believe we can create tactics which create a situation where if they don't kill us, they'll lose all their power? Yes, I do. Let me discuss how nonviolence can achieve this. Here's how nonviolence can be powerful. There's an actual dynamic involved. If you persist in the face of repression over time, you communicate to the adversary in so many words that what they're doing isn't so much evil, which it probably is, but it's ineffective. And then you begin to drive a wedge between the liberals and the conservatives in power. And the liberals moan and they wring their hands and they say, oh, can't we think of something to get them to stop or slow down? And the conservatives say, no, we can be a little more brutal. We can crush them. But if you can persist in the face of repression, you drive that wedge further and further between the two flanks of power. And the better nonviolent discipline you maintain, the further that wedge goes for any given level of effort and sacrifice. The others who practice what they call civil resistance, and that's what is the most popular approach among people who do what used to be called civil disobedience, are willing to go to jail, but they don't see eliciting repression as a worthwhile goal. Gandhi emphasized eliciting repression while being deeply concerned with the spiritual progress of his adversaries. I'm called upon here to present tactics to unite the truth and peace movements. I have 6 proposals. Some of them everyone here can and should do. The last, my attempt at satyagraha, will only be possible initially for a few. Anyone out there who finds themselves interested in any of these tactics needs to contact me directly at davidschlesinger@yahoo.com. My last name is spelled S-L-E-S-I-N-G-E-R, no C-H, no double S. To be allowed to speak from the stage at a major anti-war rally in 2011, we need to show up with 200 people or better, and better yet, 400 people at the next National Assembly to stop the war. The last one was in Pittsburgh in July. Credit Lenny Mather and Richard Krushnick of Boston 9/11 Truth for alerting us 2 weeks before this past event. We tried to get the 2010 anti-war rally to include 9/11 Truth. We lost 48 to 63. To show goodwill to coalition members, we also need to widely promote the actions of the G20 protests in Pittsburgh, October 17. We also have to remember that what we have in common with peace activists, so we don't rub it in when the vote goes our way next year. How many people here will go to our next National Assembly to end the war next year to make sure 9/11 Truth is stated loud and clear from the stage at the 2011 rally to stop Obama's war? Okay. How many people go to Pittsburgh to show support for our brothers and sisters who may not yet see us as brothers and sisters? Okay. The second idea, which can be presented at that next National Assembly, is to protest the building of the new multi-billion Department of Homeland Security headquarters in D.C. This should be done by the coalition, a coalition of left, right, and truth movements, no small feat. The goal is less to stop construction and more to put the prevention of martial law on the front burner. The logic of presenting this to the National Assembly is that you can't have national rallies in a police state. The third tactic is much simpler. It's done by individuals as opposed to group. I want people to pick out someone who loves them, who still refuses to face the evidence of false flag operations on 9/11. Gandhi held you only fast on people who love you, and he is almost completely ignored on this point. I want you to commit to and follow through with a 1-day, a 3-day, or a 5-day private fast to touch that person's heart, calling for them to examine the evidence in some finite way. Example, asking them to watch a version of Richard Gage's Blueprint for Destruction. You would sit with them while they watch to get their reaction. Here's a crucial element you must be committed to. You tell no one ever but that person who you fasted on, who it is you fasted on. Gandhi's greatest Western student, Lanza del Vasto, did a private fast on Pope John XXIII before the 1963 release of his encyclical Passamentaris to touch the Pope's heart so he might more likely condemn nuclear weapons, which he did. We can share how we handle our fasts, but not the identity of person we fast on. The point of a private fast is that if it is done to embarrass someone, it is counterproductive. How many people will commit to such a fast and report what happened without using that person's name? Okay? How many people will commit to such a fast and report what happened without using that person's name? Okay. A parallel fourth tactic is to find respected progressives from around the world, especially the developing world, to make the case for 9/11 truth to American leftists who suppress 9/11 truth. It needs to be completely acceptable for these folks who we used to call left gatekeepers and really should call left adversaries of 9/11 truth to politely debunk our evidence. It should not be acceptable for them to refuse to address high school science. The fifth tactic we are really not ready for, but it could be the ultimate one. If we could discover who made the nanothermite, who would be willing to get arrested trespassing on their property? The sixth tactic is quite daring, but can be assisted by those who like the idea but can't make the sacrifice. I'm proposing tonight that we do satyagraha on institutions of the left. I don't want nasty, hateful actions sometimes seen from pro-war folks. I want people who have some strong positive feelings for those who want peace, but who misguidedly stand against their own interests by suppressing 9/11 truth. Our goal would be to have 9/11 truth speakers at major left events. Consider, all leftists are committed to opposing racism. The left should hope we succeed in proving that Arab Muslims should not be held primarily responsible for 9/11 because it will undercut racist support for wars against Muslim countries, not to mention Muslim Americans. They don't have to agree with us, but they should root for us. Another issue the left shares with the truth movement is protection of civil liberties. The left generally doesn't go as far as truthers and right-wingers because they stop short of concern about martial law. Check out my interview with Howard Zinn, posted March 9th this year at 911truth.org. It's 14 minutes. First, we request the inclusion of a 9/11 truth speaker at some annual peace and justice event. When rebuffed, we admit we are considering making them arrest us. Let them know exactly what we intend to do to assure them no one will be frightened. We can even disrupt silently with a large banner or a sign blocking the view of their speaker. If we don't believe they will order us arrested, we can leave the event before the disruption, explaining how our disruption can be minimized or even averted. Explain that we would create an absolute minimal disruption, even going so far as to hire a local police officer ourselves to be present to arrest us before any disruption gets very far. We would agree not to publicize it outside 9/11 Truth websites and blogs, as if anyone else would cover it anyway. We would plead guilty, as Gandhi always did, and tell the judge we don't seek mercy. If the judge won't sentence us and gives us probation, we'll repeat the action in another event. After serving time, we would re-approach the organizers and request again that they allow us to show them our evidence. This assumes the weak link in our opposition is the so-called left gatekeepers. Please note, David Ray Griffin opposes that term. The term left adversaries is quite sufficient. They are the weak link in our opposition because they have good hearts, which is can more easily be touched than the heart of a neocon. No one has ever gone to jail to touch the heart of a peace activist. We should be open to their event organizers taking a serious look at our evidence as a possible compromise. Ultimately, we must be more reasonable than them. The simplest argument for 9/11 truth is that our adversaries will not address our evidence. They just call us names. To do time in jail, some people require special support, such as having their bills paid, plants watered, animals and dependents cared for. This can be handled by truthers who support the idea, but who realize they personally couldn't handle the jail time. Just to be clear, it will be totally unacceptable to me for truthers to disrupt left events and seek to avoid jail time. Part of our efforts to reach out to the left need to be giving them credit where credit is due. This includes respect for the watchword of the modern feminist movement, namely, quote, the personal is political, unquote. They have largely overcome their sectarianism, and we need to do this too. For one thing, if you focus on figuring out how evil this and that set of people in or outside the movement are, it becomes an excuse for avoiding collective action. Don't focus on the evil, focus on the truth. Don't insist someone can't be reached. The quintessential phrase characterizing violent conception of power is, quote, talking to him is like talking to a brick wall. The nonviolent conception of power assumes those in power will lose their power if their minions lose some or all of their loyalty. Every major institution in this society refuses to ask the hard questions about the most significant public event of our lives, 9/11. Only the 9/11 Truth Movement has shown the courage to ask these questions. Evidence is more important than theory, but I stand here today to shout from the rooftops that courage is even more important than evidence. Only 9/11 Truth activists deserve to live in a free country. The majority of our nation, even our adversaries of the left and those sympathetic to 9/11 Truth who hide in their basement only to commiserate with others who hide in their basement, are inviting tyranny. I want my friends who won't examine the evidence to live in a free country, but I want them to deserve freedom. I love them even though they exhibit cowardice. That is why courage is so important. Gandhi hated cowardice above all. That's why pulling out all the stops is the right choice. That's why it's actually good to be over the top, as this movement so often is. That's why that displays of courage are exactly what this country needs most. If we convince people we are right, we must motivate them to action. Now is the time to put our whole weight on the truth. Now is the time to take courageous action where we put it all on the line. We want to bring out repression from those who support lies. They'll want to kill us because we're getting so close to the truth, despite the fact that we use no hatred. Now is the time to show the public that we're not just another self-serving bunch of potential power brokers, because we don't inflict punishment on others. We prefer instead to take the suffering onto ourselves, as Gandhi did. I leave with my favorite quote from the Mahatma. The Satyagrahi enters the jail cell as the bridegroom enters the bridal chamber.